everyone. Good afternoon. This is your host, Vivian S.D. Guzman, on My Spiritual GPS. So, what is a spiritual GPS? So, we all are familiar with the GPS in our car, right? So, we plug in the address where we want to go, and then eventually we get to our destination. So, in the past, we didn't have this fancy system. But I can tell you that we've always had a spiritual GPS within ourselves. So I call that the God positioning system because we are here for a specific purpose. Our soul is here to journey and find the right people in our community that would actually uplift that spiritual message of your soul. So sometimes we are where we are in our lives and we get lost along the way, and we needed some form a spiritual GPS in order to get us to where we're going, which is ultimately what our soul intended to learn in this lifetime. So today, our show would feature new beginnings requiring trust, right? So I have invited one of our TWA healers, Therese Nadeau, to join me today. So, hey, Therese, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm excited to be here. I always love hanging out with you, Vivian.
So, Therese is an Oracle card master teacher. And I am so excited because she's going to be working with our clients in our Path and Purpose Blueprint. So I love that she pulls out these cards. So let's define this word new beginnings first. And then we're also going to define what trust is, right? So, Therese, when you're beginning a new chapter, let's say in your life, so we can recall this, right? Like when we were kids, we went to elementary school. So that was the beginning of a school year. Or maybe we were in grade one, or middle school, high school, or college. Those are all requiring a beginning. That's why we as a society, we agreed upon school year starts at this time and ends at this time, right? There's a beginning and an end of a cycle. So, what do you notice? Like, what feelings come up for you or even your kids, right? Because I know, how many kids do you have?
I have two. One's
You have,
actually almost an adult, though. He's
oh,
18.
okay. I have four kids. So I know that there's always this beginning, there's a little bit of anxiety, right, when things are
Mhm.
about to start. So can you share what are the things you've observed, like even for kids? What happens, what emotions show up for them when they're beginning a chapter in their life?
That's a good question. I think there's always this inhibition, right? Because we have to embark on something new that we don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know how it's going to turn out. And there's always this fear, right? And
Mm,
fear and excitement are similar. And so they're kind of hard sometimes. I have to ask my children, is
mhm.
this fear or is this excitement, right? And discerning the two, I think, really helps with new beginnings because then you can really allow yourself to have those emotions and it kind of gives you that peace of mind because you've tuned in and have
That's true.
for me anyway, it's always
Yes.
following the path of the emotions.
And I know in human design, which is I guess a study or a discipline we both are familiar with, you are a reflector and I'm a generator. So, can you share with them what a reflector normally feels with these changes? Obviously, this is not a statement of generalization, but
Hmm.
there's only 1% of you in the population. So, we're very lucky to have you as a reflector, right, in our business. So, how does a reflector like you normally handle changes like this, like new beginnings?
Such a good question because I've only got a couple reflectors in my life, which is fantastic because then we get to chat.
Okay.
And one of them's in the UK, Ashling, you know her. Anyway, so when we talk, we always reflect back to each other. So I understand kind of what I do for people,
Right.
and when it comes to new beginnings, I love them. I'm actually designed for my aura samples everything. So I
Right.
get a little taste of this, little taste of that, and I have to know I'm in the right environment. So if I get a little taste of this and that and it doesn't taste good, I have to leave that space and that
Mm-hmm.
environment because it's not going to help me as a person. And I know
Yeah.
as you have this big, warm, encompassing aura as this amazing generator that you are. And
Like
so,
a magnet. That's the
yeah,
aura.
yeah, and so mine is more like a Teflon in a way because it actually um, reflects back to your beauty and your gifts and your um, shadow self as well, which we know we have to embrace. So new beginnings for me personally are exciting unless um, I maybe don't have the say in the new beginning because that's just a control thing. And I think that's normal as a human. Then there's the fear sometimes that shows
Right,
up.
right. And I wanted to define for the clients, when we talk about control, I think people think of that as a bad word, when in fact you can redefine control as start, change, and stop.
Ooh, I
And
like
that's
that.
why a good communication is very important between two people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you're entering an agreement, a contract, a business, um, it does require trust, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that itself requires trust. But if you feel like you're being controlled and you have a negative connotation of that word, unfortunately, a lot of people clam up. They kind of like shrink and they go within and they don't want to talk to the other person anymore. But control, if you think of it as start, change, and stop, because if you don't like the way you're being treated, or you don't like the agreements that are happening, right? Or there's no agreement yet, but the conversations that are happening, let's say within a working condition, like a work situation, you can always voice yourself out, right? And say something about it to change the trajectory of that. So if one person is bossy, and then you start to shrink like a kid, then you're really not showing up as the full version or the higher version self, right? Because somehow you don't trust yourself to voice out your concern. So if you can start, change, and stop, that is a form of control.
Yeah, it's true. I totally love how you say that because it always work environments always bring out our relationships, family dynamics, and they
Mm,
work play out in the office environment. And
yeah.
so it makes sense that you have um, like the bossy person or like these little behavioral
Yeah.
things and the trust thing is yeah, it definitely shows up.
Yeah. So the trust, I noticed that if you really learn to trust yourself, you will actually also learn to trust other people as long as you're clear on the agreements that the two of you or majority, multiple people have agreed upon. And now that's why I understand, like, you know how when you go to an office, there's a way of doing things, right? And I'm sure it's either the boss created that or the collective, whoever's
Mhm.
been there a while, have created that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, it trust begins with ourselves. How much
Mm.
do I trust myself? Because however much I can trust myself, I can put that trust in someone else too. So there's this like trusting that I can trust someone. Right? Like I think I can trust them.
Yes, exactly. That doesn't sound so trusting the way you said that. You see, the tone kind of gave it away.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like you go into this, if you don't trust yourself, then you're like, I think I can trust them. I
That's
think
right.
so.
All right. So when we're beginning a journey, right? So we'll talk about, let's say if you are in a coaching program and let's say you've decided to put your trust in the program, right? Remember, you got to also put your trust in yourself that whatever the program is about to give you, that you are willing to receive that. Because even if the program has everything you need, but you're not in the receiving end, unfortunately, then it won't work for you.
Oh yeah,
It's
this is so true. And you know what? We hear this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like people will take a program or invest in something. And usually,
Right.
the investment is the energy exchange. So you can invest a lot or a little. Um, and it's interesting how we often will blame
Mhm.
or not take accountability for our part, but really that is also part of the receiving. It's like like a,
Yes.
a the safety mechanism of like, oh well, if
Yeah.
I don't take accountability, then I don't have to do the work. Or if I and it's all subconscious programming. So the
Yeah.
trusting in the process and the amount of work you put in and the amount of energy that you exchange is actually the value. And that's something I've learned over the years in investing with coaches, um,
Yes.
in my experience anyway.
Yes, yes. So I know that you love pulling oracle cards, and we love
Mhm.
hearing about those. By the way, so Therese is our oracle card master reader. So in our Path and Purpose Blueprint program, she actually gives you 3 private sessions. So for example, you need some guidance for the month, right? And that's usually what I look for, the theme, right? So what is it that is required of me for this particular month? And even as a business owner, right? Because I plan
Mhm.
quarterly and then I plan 6 months or a year ahead. There's like a theme that I look for in my life because I'm asking for divine guidance. I'm asking for guidance on what is it I need to do to make this business successful so I can help more people, right? And
Mhm.
like for this particular year, I was guided to bring in different types of practitioner in our Transformational Wellness Academy because it is time to link up together, link arms together, and really help the collective, right? Because you can't do it alone. um, I don't know about you, but it's kind of lonely, right? It doesn't really matter how
Mhm.
much money you've made, but then if you can't share that gift, you can't really share the wealth to other people. It doesn't feel quite good. So it's just a natural evolution. It's a natural process that when you've achieved the goals, the results that you're looking for, you ask other people to help you deliver those services because they have their own specialty. So Therese here is an Oracle Card Master teacher. And so she pulled out some cards for us for the week so that you can have a little bit of a guidance, right? Like a guiding light for you. So, Therese, tell us, what did you pull for the audience that's watching the show today? New beginnings require trust.
Okay, so the first one may seem like a dark and dingy card, but even the dark cards have so much light. And
Okay.
so this one you could see the man's down the stairs. There's still a light there.
Hmm.
There's art on the wall. So this is telling me that,
Oh, what's the name of the card?
oh, conflict and defeat. Sorry.
Conflict and defeat.
Yeah.
So, as a reflector, we were talking before we started the show. Therese is sensing something in the collective. So go ahead and share with them, what is that conflict and defeat? What's
Well, there's
this?
a lot of inner conflict going on right now.
Oh,
A
inner
lot
conflict.
of inner conflict. Um there's this sense of like, because we see the polarity playing out in the planet in
Yep,
every part of the world.
right.
And when that polarity is with that, because whatever happens outside of us is already happening within. As you know, you're the manifester of money,
Yeah.
and it's like whatever we're experiencing within, we're going to see without. So if we're experiencing conflict,
Hmm.
uh, conflict can be with people, relationships, governments, organizations. Conflict can show up in so many different ways.
Or within ourselves too, right? It's kind
Well,
of
that's
like,
what I'm saying.
yeah, we
Exactly.
want something else, but then maybe our family wants something else, and it doesn't
Yes.
quite. Um, I guess there's no unity there. There's disharmony because I'm
Mhm.
noticing this even from the clients that I'm treating this week.
Mhm.
They have, so in their head, right? So if you're in a coaching program that requires you to show up, right, and be the higher version of you and the highest version of you, what happens is your family doesn't understand what you're going through. They are thinking as like, what happened to you? Did you swallow some kind of a blue pill, or what happened? Like, you weren't like this before, and now you treat me like this. So it almost becomes your fault, because that was the message I was getting from a lot of the clients. It's like, I'm changing, but then they couldn't handle the changes going on within them, which is kind of
Mhm.
sad, right? And so then other conflicts arise, because I'm sure they love their family, but then they
Mhm.
also love what their sole purpose is telling them to do.
Mhm. I
Wow.
feel like that's where we're at. We're at a pivotal moment.
Hmm.
And every client I'm working with is the same thing, Vivian. Is they're
Oof.
at a pivotal moment where, yeah, feel that, where they're in conflict with the person they're becoming because they're
Mm,
letting go of their old self,
right.
re-emerging as this new self. And I always explain it as the mobile. So
Mm,
every family is a mobile, right? Every
right.
person has their spot in the mobile, and we
Hmm.
all have our little dance. And when
Yep.
we're shifting and we're turning into someone else because we're holding ourselves accountable, we have better boundaries. Like you've shared before, you don't have to have this dumpster in front of you where people dump everything on you into the
Yep.
dumpster. You time it. You're like 3 minutes, Kate, that's it.
Yeah, 3 minutes. That's it. You can complain, blame, shame, whatever you want to do. But after that, I'm hanging up. I have another client. I have another appointment. Bye bye.
Yeah, exactly. And so those are the boundaries that your family may not be used to.
Right.
And then this like feeling of defeat can come in because you're stepping into this new person, but it's not materializing fast enough, or it's not as
Yes.
easy as you thought it was going to be. It's actually a lot more work. Like, this whole conscious evolution, it's not
Yes.
rainbows and butterflies. you know
Nope.
it it can be ugly, it can be messy. I mean, you're letting go of past self, which is ego, right? The old ego.
Hmm.
Anyway, so this is what I feel is the message is to not hold on to that defeat, because the conflict is showing up as a gift for
Hmm.
you to heal those wounds, those childhood wounds. It's like we're just this layered onion, and subconsciously our body holds the subconscious. So listen to your body. What's your body saying? And if
That's
you trust that your body knows, you
mhm.
trust your guides, you trust your coaches, you trust yourself, then the next card comes, because this is the work that you're doing. Yay, you get to rejoice in
Rejoice in
celebration.
celebration. That looks good.
Oh, yeah, it's all at full cups. Who knows what they're drinking, but I want some.
And like you said, the more they trust, right? Because we talked about the 4 stages of spiritual development. Usually you awaken. A lot of people awaken because of an emergency, either bodily emergency, right? Like they get sick, their family gets sick, something happens that are
Mhm.
unexpected, and you're like, oh my God, you're ruining my schedule, because this is not, this is not what I expected today, right? That's awakening. But when you discover, and these people sometimes get stuck in discovery, because now they go, oh, I like that kind of healing, like you do oracle cards. And then they go to Vienna for emotion code. They go to me for psychic clearing and spiritual healing. And then other people, they go, like I said, chakras, auras, they go through different discovery, but then they don't surrender. They don't really, they don't focus on, well, what's your purpose in life, right? I'm sure you're doing that already. You're just not aware. You're not
Mhm.
trusting that all these different experiences, good or bad, doesn't matter,
Mhm.
require you to trust the universe. Because when you surrender, that's the third stage,
Mhm.
when you finally surrender, because what you think works doesn't work anymore. I don't know if you noticed this, Therese, but every single year, you know how people roll out a strategy, and then it works for that year, and then the following year it changes, just because there's such a thing as, how the Chinese celebrate New Year also, right?
Yeah.
The, the spirit animal, or it changes every year. So
Yes.
I noticed this a lot, like during December, January, because you know how we're like, New Year's resolution. And then they're like, but it's not working. What happened? It
Right.
was before, even like weight loss resolutions, the New
Yes.
Year resolutions. But then the next year comes and they're like, well, how come I was exercising the same thing last year, dieting
Yes.
the same way, and it doesn't work? That's why it falls off at a certain time, especially
Mhm.
those weight loss things,
Mm.
because the energy has shifted.
Yes. The year of the ox this year, right? We're in the metal ox this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's definitely energy always moving. It's always shifting. Like I was massaging my daughter. She's been sick, right? I was massaging her arms and like
Mm-hmm.
putting tiger balm, speaking of Chinese, like that
Yep.
tiger balm works,
Yep.
clearing out the chest.
Mhm.
And she's like, well, why does it hurt there? And I had to explain it's
Yeah.
energy. You
Yeah.
store the energy in your
Over
body.
there. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it happened to be stored in the meridian. Like if you follow Chinese medicine at all, it'll all the meridians, liver. I mean, it's interesting. Like when you study different modalities, especially because those
Yes.
people through awakening, they tend to be really into trying all these new things. You start to see the parallels, and
Yeah.
trust is always the message, isn't it? It seems to be the parallel message through everything that we do, everything that we want to achieve requires trust.
Yes.
And honestly, like I feel lately, my reminder for myself, which you may feel this too, is that I've got to keep filling my own cup.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to keep celebrating the milestones. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because when you trust you, so like yesterday was an interesting day. Monday, I woke up and then I just felt tired. So
Mhm.
normally, what is Monday? For most entrepreneurs, we work, right? So I actually spent time, well, I already had the meetings, but at lunchtime, I had lunch with a friend and I just decided to like walk around first, calm down. Like you got to fill your cup because obviously you've already set the appointment like I have at 9 and 10. And then I'm like, I think I really need to fill my own cup. So all Mondays are not the same because we're not robots. I remind people that, right? So I said, okay, my body needed something, and your body is a very good barometer for how you're feeling. So if you don't feel good, well, you gotta feel good first. Because like you said, money comes with ease when you're ready to receive. But if you're tired, literally, I couldn't receive another client, right, at that time
Mhm.
because it's just not the time for me.
Mhm.
Does that
Oh
make
yeah,
sense?
absolutely. And here's the thing. I've been taking care of sick kids all week. I've been taking care of my business, helping out friends going through a little bit of their own crisis, conflict and defeat, right?
Yep,
And
yep.
then, so what did I do? I booked myself a massage this afternoon, and I'm
Yeah,
so happy to get a massage later because it's time. And
because that's
and you
the receiving.
yes, I don't receive enough. Like I should change my words. I'm
Yes,
receiving with ease.
yes.
And once I feel my cup is starting to empty, I'm starting to recognize a pattern where I'm fixing that now. And so
Ah,
there's the trust. I'm trusting that the universe is going to take care of me. I'm
right.
trusting that I'm going to, I mean, I even got a massage last minute. How does that
Very
happen?
good. Very good. Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to give them a quote for today. The spiritual journey is the unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love by Marianne Williamson. So obviously, if you don't love yourself, it'll show up. And it's funny. I'm going to tell you guys this story about one time a friend of mine and I went to Sedona and we saw a shaman, right, for a shamanic journey. When we finished at about 4 o'clock. I wanted to get, I don't know why, a Big Mac from McDonald's. Now, McDonald's in Sedona is like with teal arches. It's just unique.
Mm,
And I don't know why I was craving, but I think I was craving for some protein, some meat
mhm,
at that time. I denied myself that need to fulfill this. I want to eat a burger, basically. That particular afternoon, I went home. I mean, we went back to the hotel, which is about 30 minutes from the town proper. And there were two leftover meals from a Thai restaurant. So I just ate that, right? Because I thought I'm just hungry. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. guess what? At about 9:30, 10, I'm like, I really want that burger. So somehow there was a part of me that's not fulfilled or not satisfied with what I ate. So I was probably craving for meat, or my body was craving for some kind of protein at that time, because the one I ate had chicken, right? But it didn't satisfy the craving. So when we finally decided, and the reason at that time years ago was I just didn't want to spend money because I didn't have enough cash at that point. Okay. And I was kind of ashamed to borrow money from her for a Big Mac. So do you see how your emotions can play this out, right? I literally, when we got there, they just closed down. I didn't know what time they closed. I didn't look at the GP or at the internet, what time they closed. We drove there at 10:30 and they were closed. So of course that craving wasn't fulfilled. And the aha moment for me at that time was I needed to be satisfied. And that was the thing that'll satisfy me at that moment. And I realized that I withhold a lot of satisfaction for me. So if you notice that, because I remember in the past when I had all these money problems, I was not fulfilling my own need. How can I fulfill my clients' needs when I couldn't fulfill my own? Do you see what I'm saying?
That's
So,
beautiful.
yeah, so when you're beginning a journey, right, it feels weird because you don't know where you're going. Your human design says this is your purpose, but you're like, but I don't know how it looks like. But I'm telling you, stop trying to figure out how it's going to look like and just trust the process.
I know, it's like, stop asking how. We're not, the universe takes care of the how. We just have
Yeah.
to be clear on
Yes.
what we want. And I
Mhm.
think why helps too. Like, why do you really want it?
Yeah,
You
it
know,
does.
like what is the reason you really want it? I think that really helps. And
Yes.
then being ultra clear in your mind, visualizing and writing and whatever feels good for you. And so for me,
Yes.
like when you said that withholding, it's like,
Yes.
yeah, I withheld some of stuff for myself this week as a
Mm.
mother giving,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So now
Yes.
I'm not. Now I'm like back, but I'm starting to recognize, you'll recognize these patterns on these new journeys. So every time you go through these new things, new experiences, I think that that's like you
Yeah.
said, the GPS. It's like, oh, wait, I'm off track.
Yes.
I
Yes.
need hands on my body. I got to go back over here. Right?
Yes, yes, you got to fulfill that basic need, right? So I'm going to invite everyone to join us, right, on Path and Purpose Blueprint Healing Protocol in Human Design. We cover the basics of that so you understand who you are, because it takes 3 years or more. Some books say 3 to 7 years to understand your true nature, because we've been conditioned by our society, our parents, our culture, religion, tradition, everything, right? And for those of you who are really joining us, because we start this Thursday, we will include or mail out to you your 90-day journal and my number one best-selling book, Awaken Your Medical Intuition. So here is the link if you'd like to join us, because we would be happy to really help you figure that out. And with this comes 3 privates with Therese, 3 privates with Vienna, and also you have a human design reading with Pam, plus the journal, right? So if you'd like to do that, we're going to get started with our hands on healing this Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we would love to have you there. So we have 2 more spots open for this particular class, because we usually have like small classes so that everybody really gets attention. Okay. All right. So yes, Lisa, thank you for streaming live with us. She said, um, all right. Okay, she said something, so I'm gonna share this comment she put down. They feel like they're moving with different people. It's important to dive deep and surrender, like Kabbalah. Yes, human design is also based on that, right? You get the crown when you make it to the top of the tree, and then the next year you start at the bottom all over again to get a new crown. Never stay static. We must confront new challenges, and every day you start with an empty cup. Ah, that's beautiful. And Lisa said, yes, our generator needs to be satisfied. Yes, she's also a generator. So the thing is, just do this every day. Find the one thing that'll satisfy you. Because if you keep on doing life, but then you're empty, unfortunately, well, then you don't get much, right? Because you're withholding that ability to receive. Therefore, you're going to have money problems if you cannot receive. I mean, it's very simple. It's kind of like 1 plus 1 is 2, right? It's not even 1 plus 1 is 11. It's just like, are you satisfied today? Like when your head hits the pillow at night, are you satisfied with your day? And if that is the last day that you will ever live in this lifetime, can you be okay with that? Will you be okay with that? That's really that. So, well, thank you, Therese. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lisa. Wow, this is fun. And we would love to see you again next Tuesday for another episode of My Spiritual GPS. Bye for now.